Hey guys, thanks for joining us today on the Lean to the Left podcast. If you're a senior paying exorbitant prices for prescription drugs, the news out of Washington is not very good. That's because legislation that would help lower those drug prices appears to be stuck, apparently the victim of intense lobbying by the pharmaceutical industry, which reportedly has lured a number of Democratic legislators into its camp. And there is very little, if any, Republican support for this bill. So the forecast for this proposal, a priority of President Biden, is mostly cloudy at best. Now, today we're with Chris Orestis, president of Retirement Genius, an expert on financial health, long-term care, and retirement issues. Considered a political insider and senior issues advocate, Chris is a former Washington, D.C. lobbyist and has worked at the White House and for the Senate Majority Leader on Capitol Hill. He's author of 2 books, Help on the Way and A Survival Guide to Aging, and has a 3rd book, Retire Like a Genius, on the Way. He's been speaking for 2 decades across the country about senior finance and the secrets to aging with financial and physical health and dignity. So, Chris, welcome to our program.
Well, hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
How about giving us a little bit of an overview on how these drug prices affect older Americans?
Well, the problem is you have so many older Americans that obviously collect Social Security. That's a fixed income. And such a big chunk of what they're spending out of pocket to keep up with their drug costs are taking money away from them to do other things. And so you have seniors caught in this trap where they end up having to make really tough decisions about prioritizing things like food, medicine, and they often resort to rationing their own medicines and their food. They have to make the call of, do I eat 3 meals a day or 2? Do I take both doses of my medication today, or do I save it and take 1 a day to try and stretch this out? And that's not good for their health. That's not good for there's a trickle-down effect of what happens to them caught in that kind of a scenario. And there's been a long time push to try and get Medicare in a position to negotiate for better drug prices and more controls over the increase of drug prices, yet it has been stopped. And the crazy thing is Medicare's the biggest insurer in the country, and its negotiating power could instantly change the playing field for seniors and for taxpayers. Don't forget, this is coming out of people's paychecks. And if you are spending less money on exorbitant drug prices going into the bottom line of drug companies, if you can bring that down, that's more money to spread around inside Social Security for seniors to spend in other places, and more room inside Medicare as well.
It's amazing to me that there's even a question about this on Capitol Hill, given the fact that members of both parties in their campaigns all call for efforts to reduce prescription drug prices. And they talk about that constantly when they're running for office. And Biden did that and pushed it and is still pushing it.
Yep.
So what the hell? What is the problem? Why does this get stuck like this?
Yeah, what's amazing is there's polling out and across the board, all ages, both parties, some of the most overwhelming numbers in support of drug price reforms. You have not just the effort that was announced by the Biden administration at the beginning of September, but the effort on Capitol Hill with H.R. 3, where it's very similar approaches to giving Medicare that negotiating power, putting caps, tying to cost of living increases, to what drug prices can go up, capping out-of-pocket costs, overwhelming support for that. But you have a small handful of well-placed legislators who, when you look at their backgrounds and the amount of money they're receiving from the drug companies. And listen, I got to be honest with you. I was a lobbyist for years in Washington, D.C. I've played this game. I know this game. And the drug companies play it very well. Though they know how to throw some of the sharpest elbows in the ring. And they know where to put their support and put their money behind candidates. And they also know how to come and then call on the debts that are owed to them. And they are jamming up the works with a small group of legislators who are getting support from them to try and bring this thing to a halt. And they've managed to slow this whole process down.
It's not just the Republicans. I mean, one might think that it was the Republicans that would be holding this up, but I understand that there's a number of well-placed Democrats on key committees that are doing this.
No, you're absolutely right. That's what's really jamming up the works is they've been able to peel off 3 members of a key committee, and when you match that with total objection from the Republican side, the Democrats can't move it, and it's causing a lot of problems in the reconciliation process trying to move things through committee.
And those key members, they would be Scott Peters of California, Kurt Schrader of Oregon, and Kathleen Rice of New York. Is that correct?
Right. That's right. That's right. And when you look at their backgrounds, they all have ties to the pharmaceutical industry. It's not hard to look them up and see what their ties are, either because of their district, or I think one of them even has family ties into the industry. So they're not going to budge.
Man, that's just insidious. It really is.
Yeah, I've seen polling number of over 85% support across all Americans. I'm going to tell you something. There's not much left in this country, it seems, that you can get broad-based support for anything anymore. This is an issue where you can. This is almost one of the only issues where you can instill 3 well-placed members of Congress can bring the whole thing to a screeching halt, which costs taxpayers billions of dollars, jams up seniors across the country, forcing them to cough up money that they can't afford. And instead of spending it on things like food, rent, heat, they're pumping it back into the profits of the drug companies.
Now, we say these people are well placed. What do you mean by that?
Well, by being on the right committees.
Which is?
Energy and Commerce.
In the House.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Ways and Means actually passed it, but Energy and Commerce won't pass it. And that's caused a real roadblock in the process.
Mm-hmm. So this thing is now part of the $3.5 trillion continuing resolution that is, to say hotly being debated is an understatement, correct?
Yeah. And this has become the hottest potato in that bag of hot potatoes, making up $3.5 trillion of spending.
Well, tell me, a lot of people might wonder, how is it that by giving Medicare the ability to negotiate drug prices, how would that reduce their spending for prescription drugs?
Well, think of it like the way insurance companies operate. Insurance companies negotiate with drug companies to reimburse their products.
Yeah.
So they develop a formulary. It's called a formulary that is price matched to drug to prescriptions.
Right.
And that is negotiated on certain terms, which Medicare is powerless to do. It has no ability to negotiate drug prices whatsoever.
So in other words, the companies just set the prices and they say, that's it.
That's right. That's right. And so often the drug companies will justify what they're charging by saying, well, we charge these prices because we need to put the money into research and development. We need to develop new drugs. We need to bring more innovation and greater health outcomes to everybody that's out there. But ultimately, what we really see is every other TV commercial is a drug ad.
Oh, hell, you know what? I mean, come on. I worked on Capitol Hill in the 1970s, and they were making that same claim way back then.
That's right. That's right. And
I'm
they still are. And they
yeah.
still are. So it's interesting that this issue, which is so popular with the American people, has become, this is probably the most popular part of the entire package, yet it's been turned into the most controversial and the roadblock to it passing. And that's just, it's almost mind numbing to think that that can happen. I mean, you had 85+% support for this across the country, across the board, regardless of age, regardless of party, regardless of income.
Yeah. So what, if this doesn't pass, if it's not included in the reconciliation package, if it doesn't pass, what else can Biden or Congress do?
Well, I think this is one where you stick to your guns. Personally, I think you keep fighting this one. You make your case to the American people.
Mhm.
I don't think it's been loud enough in the press. I don't think people understand enough of what this is about and what's going on and why it's being held up and the benefits it brings, not just to seniors, but to everybody who's paying into the system. The money's getting drained. And, there's earlier this month, there was a report on the Social Security Trust Fund running out of money sooner than anticipated. Well, this is a way this is one way to help seniors by stopping the diversion of so much of their out-of-pocket money towards their drug costs. This helps Medicare, this helps Social Security, and it not only helps seniors, but it helps everybody who's paying into the system. I just don't think that case has been made loud enough, clear enough, and consistently enough. And that, I think, is what really has to happen. It isn't a matter of what's plan B. I think it's a matter of you got to keep fighting for plan A. This is the most popular piece of the entire package.
Right. Well, how can they get by those three stubborn members of Congress that seem to be coming up the works?
Well, other than the financial backers for members of Congress, there's another group that members of Congress will listen to, and it's the voters. And I wouldn't want to have to go out there and explain to the voters why I shot down a legislation that was going to reform prescription drug prices and put more money into the pockets of seniors and into their families. I'd hate to be the one who had to go out and explain I did that because I had to fight for the profit margins of the drug companies so that they could run more ads for you to watch on TV. In October, we're going to hear about the latest Social Security cost of living increase, and it's looking like it's going to be 6% or better, which is going to be the biggest cost of living increase since the early 80s.
Well, that would be really good.
Yeah, well, but the good news is the bad news. There's going to be a big cost of living increase because we've had a huge spike in inflation.
Right.
They're tied, they're tied to each other.
Right. So, that's true.
There's a silver lining for seniors in that there is a cost of living increase coming, but the downside is it's being driven by spikes in inflation. And boy, to me, seniors deserve a raise, and that raise is going to help. But the drug companies, if they're left unchecked, they'll just turn around and say, oh, look at all that extra money that just went to seniors. Well, up go the prices again. They can afford now to pay more.
Yeah, right.
And that's a real problem. Now, there certainly are ways that seniors can manage how they operate in Social Security and in Medicare to try and stretch their dollars. Open enrollment for Medicare is coming up in mid-October, and it goes every year from October 15th to December 1. And that is a time when seniors can look at their prescription drug coverage through Medicare Part D and make changes. Mm-hmm. And the reason you have an annual open enrollment is because Medicare understands people's needs are going to keep evolving. So what you may have enrolled in on when you were 65 could be very different than when you're 75, 80, 85. So seniors need to pay attention to the various choices they can make in how they set up their prescription drug coverage. And is it keeping up with their needs? Is it the best configuration for what they need as their health changes, as they're aging? So really, seniors, please pay very close attention to what your choices are in open enrollment. Don't take that for granted. Don't blow it off. Roll up your sleeves, do your homework, make sure you're configuring your Medicare enrollment to best match where you are, because when you do that, it'll also stretch your dollars and you'll get the most out of your dollars with Medicare when you set yourself up in the program correctly.
Okay, so exactly how do you do that? What am I correct in saying that you take a look at the prescriptions that you customarily take,
right,
and match that up with the formularies from the various
Part D
providers,
plans,
right, for the various plans, to make sure that you're getting the best reimbursement
right,
level for each of those drugs.
right. It's where are you in out of pocket?
Right.
Could some of those drugs be generic instead of name brand and less expensive?
Mhm.
It's those kinds of things you want to do. You also want to make sure. Another thing I always recommend is make sure you're getting checkups with your doctor about your prescriptions, because sometimes prescriptions get out of whack.
Right.
And one prescription all of a sudden leads to needing another one, and sometimes people lose track of it. And the first prescription that has them 3 or 4 prescriptions down the road now might not even be necessary anymore. And all of a sudden you might be able to peel back some or all of those prescriptions that are costing you a bunch of money. So pay close attention to how you're enrolled and in what you're taking. Check in with your doctor and go through and take very seriously the open enrollment process when it kicks into gear in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I was just going to make sure that you said that to do this, if you're going to think about changing the drugs you're taking, you need to check with your doctor.
Always. Oh yeah. And senior people should, particularly when you're on Medicare, it's very good coverage. So do not be bashful about going to a doctor and just saying, look, here's all my prescriptions. Is this all still correct? Am I doing this right? Am I missing something?
Right.
And I would do that even more than an annual basis, quite possibly.
Okay. So you have a new book coming, right?
Yeah, but we hope by the end of the year it'll be out. It's called Retire Like a Genius. Our company, Retirement Genius, which you can find at www.retirementgenius.com. What we do is we emphasize the importance of a well-balanced retirement, the combination of financial security, health and long-term care security, and maximizing your lifestyle. The three need to come together like the legs of a stool. And I like to say, if all you do is emphasize making money to the detriment of your health, and you see this with people, they're working so hard, they're eating junk food, they get home, they want to have a couple of drinks to unwind, they don't have time to exercise. Well, what's it all for? You made all this money, or you worked so hard, and then you got into your 60s, your 70s, and then your health's falling apart. Like what good is a garage full of Ferraris if you're too sick to drive them?
Yeah, that's the truth.
So with Retirement Genius, we emphasize the strategies to be well balanced across all that. A lot of companies will focus just on financial issues, or you'll go to websites that will give you exercise and meal plans. We bring it all together to try and match what would be the best well-balanced configuration for somebody to be able to achieve the longest, healthiest, and most fulfilling retirement that they could have.
So that is going to be, in essence, the content of your
right. In the book, we really drill down into the philosophy of it, the strategies of it. It's broken across financial, health, long-term care, and lifestyle, information, strategies, resources to then do something, to act. And what I always like to make sure seniors and everybody understands, isn't just seniors. It's never too late to start. It's never too late to start an exercise plan. It's never too late to start saving. It's never too late to start investing. and staying on top of what you're doing all the way through. Don't take any of it for granted.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great advice. So, Chris, I really thank you for being with us today on Lean to the Left. And I think it's great advice. I did notice that while we were talking, I got an email in from the AARP, and they're urging people to contact their congressmen and senators about this need to get this drug plan passed. So if you guys have time, do it. Call your congressman, call your senators.
Very sound advice. I can tell you, you and I both have worked in politics, and we both know that they will respond to their constituents. They will. If they don't hear from their constituents, then they're listening to the people behind the scenes. But there gets to a point where if the constituents push hard enough, the people behind the scenes have to get pushed out of the way.
Well, let me just tell you that one of the most powerful voting blocks in this country are senior citizens.
Absolutely.
And members of Congress will pay attention if you contact them. It's the only way I know of to overcome money from the pharmaceutical industry in this case.
Yep. And there's a chance. The window is open.
Yeah.
85+% of Americans support this. The window is open, and it's really just a small group of people that are trying to close it again. And they could be pushed out of the way.
Yeah.
If enough people rally and have their voices heard.
Yeah.
This still is America, and it's still a democracy, and we all have a voice. Let's use it.
Okay, my friend. Thanks very much.
It was great to talk to you. I look forward to another time when we can chat again.
I'd love to do that. And maybe when your book is closer to coming out, we'll do it again and we'll really talk about the details of it.
I'd love to do that.
Okay.